welcome to the Coconut Radio Show, brought to you in part by Colbert TV and the Center for African Entrepreneurship. Today we have a very special guest who will be talking to us about her activism. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people?
Hello everyone, my name is Horcelie Sinda. I'm 23 years old. I'm an artist, activist, campaigner.
Okay, a lot going on.
Thank you.
So you were introduced to me as an activist, and that's a theme that's come up a lot in your previous interviews this weekend. Can you tell me what does being an activist mean to you?
Really, is the word is there. You're just active. You are speaking of issues. I think that's what it is, because some people misuse the word activist, I think, but it's really, you are speaking about issues that concern your community, issues that concern, let's say, women's issues. And with my activism, I'm really passionate about sub-Saharan African issues, and issues in the Congolese diaspora as well, in my communities.
Okay, so can you tell us about some of the projects that you've been involved in?
Yeah, I did Yellow Sunday this year. So what Yellow Sunday is a 1 year or annual campaign where we get Congolese people to donate or to wear something yellow to donate or to wear something yellow, so that we equipped women in Congo to become independent, not just independent, but to get like a qualification. Like last year with the campaign, what we did is we raised money so that the money we can train women in Congo to become nurses in areas that is quite crucial where there's not nurses in those areas. And also I volunteered with Future Internationals, and every year they do a Congo Week, which happens in many different countries, where Congolese people gather to speak about issues or just to celebrate Congolese culture. It's not Congolese Independence Day, it's just Congo Week. So the whole week that happens, and I volunteer as a youth committee to help out with the youth, to kind of, I was leading the youth so that we can volunteer there and speak about issues that affects us, the youth, and how can we celebrate the youth here in Congolese youth, so that we can as well use our skills that we've learned here and we can take it back home. So those are the kind of things that I do. Yeah.
That sounds very good.
Thank you.
You've been a very busy young lady then.
Yes.
So if I can just ask you about the yellow project, why did they pick the color yellow in particular?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that. So Yellow Sunday, why yellow? Because yellow in Congolese mythology represents wealth. Right. And we know the country is so wealthy, from resources, from diamonds, from, the phones that we use come from their technology, even just nature it is full of richness as well in Congo. So yes, that's why the color, I didn't choose it. It's not my campaign. There's a man called Vava Tapa. It's his campaign, but I was amazed that there is a long-term campaign that I think I can do, because it's for 10 years and I was glad to be part of it. So, and I'm still going to be part of it. Yeah.
Very nice. And you were saying that they were encouraging women, particularly in areas where there weren't many healthcare professionals, to become nurses. Yeah. One of my interests is in rural medicine. So have you been active in any rural projects trying to get women empowered?
Not in my own country. I went to volunteer in South Africa, and we were in rurals basically in South Africa, Eastern Cape, and where we were wasn't necessarily women. We were more concerned by the organization Restless Developments that I went to volunteer with. We were working with youth. So it was youth development, youth empowerment. And I enjoy youth empowerment, and that's what I do. I've worked with Youth Stop AIDS, is because, we are the future of tomorrow. So we engage with both male and females and bring them together to really discuss issues that affects them in their communities. And such issues was HIV and AIDS, rape, violence, even small things like career planning. We did all of that, and we run workshops with facilitating in schools. Yeah.
Okay, so what got you started in activism in the first place?
I think deep down I've always been one. I just didn't call myself one. Because again, I was very young. I didn't think I understood what activist meant at the age of 16, 17. At that age, I was very I wanted to know more about African culture, African identity. When you're in sixth form, you don't really get taught these things. You don't really know much. And because I studied art, I was like, okay, if I'm going to make work about African art, I need to know what is African art and why is it called African art. And that's what led me in the path of activism. I was always passionate about Congo. I knew I was going to go back to Congo one day and do something. And I knew that Congolese needed developed in so many different areas, and I didn't know where to start. And that's where I went to volunteer in South Africa.
Oh, right. Very nice. And you alluded to sort of having identity discovery while you were in sixth form.
Yeah.
Do you think that, you know, having people who are from Congo but growing up in the UK and other parts of the world and not necessarily being taught about what is an African identity, do you think that that's one of the reasons why the diaspora isn't working very well together?
That is so crucial. Why I'm not saying that if a Congolese or how do I say, a Congolese British born young person who was raised here, he was raised in a culture here, doesn't know much. I don't blame them when they say, they call themselves, oh, I'm British, they say I'm British, and they don't know much about Congolese culture. That's why you see in the community, especially here in the UK, in London, I see a lot of young people, especially our generation, who are now standing up already saying, you know, I need to know where I come from. I need to know who I am. I mean, you can identify whatever culture that you want to, but I think if you are not taught your past, if you're not taught your history, you can identify as anything.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. That's when it becomes a bit, you know, so problematic. I think it becomes very problematic because you say, oh, I'm British, and then because in my passport it says I'm Black British, but I'm from Congo. So you see what I mean? There's no such thing as Congolese British. Unless I put that forward, I'm a Congolese, you know, British artist, if that's how I want to put it. So I think those kind of terms as well we should question, because although there are Congolese people born here, when you do you go for a job application form, you tick Black British.
Exactly.
You don't just tick British. Then again, that becomes problematic. It becomes another debate. So I think that's why it's so crucial, because if it is a debate and you know what you're debating about, you know what you're talking about, and you can only talk about that if you know your history. I mean, I don't know the whole history of Congo, but with the little I know, it has helped me with pushing forward activism, even in my own artwork.
Exactly.
So
and I think that's one of the problems with a lot of people, even, you know, Caribbean people who are born in the UK. Because even if they decide that they are not interested in learning about, you know, where their parents or their grandparents were from, at every job interview, at every school application, that little tick box is going to remind them that you're not like everyone else. And that's what causes a lot of the clashing.
Of course.
So have you had a lot of involvement trying to get British-born Congolese people to be more interested in the Congo?
It's hard. It's so hard, because some of them just think Congo, they say it's a rich country, but some of them is like, oh, it's poor, I'll never go back there because everything I have is here. I've got my job here, I studied here, I went to university here. But I think with those who think like that, like I said, I don't blame them, because they're never taught where they come from. For example, when I was working a youth committee for Congo Week this year, we started since June. You know, it was an ongoing planning, because we have to gather people who are coming from Japan, people coming from Belgium to come and speak. So it was a long, you know, time preparing for it. And at a long time, around that time as well, I was campaigning. I went to Amsterdam, so it was quite hard. But when it came to asking young Congolese people to come and volunteer, I do my activisms, I do campaigning, I do all of that. I try to get young people to I don't think it's just Congolese, they say Black young people, not just Black, but any young person, really trying to get them to understand development work or sustainable development. It's just very, very, very hard. Very, very hard, because a lot of young people are not so concerned. They just think, you know, the government's supposed to deal with those issues, not really us. We're just here, you know, to get this information, you know, become rich. And I think the problem I have, I mean, it's not such a problem, but the concern that I have with the youth today, not everyone, I think we have more information ever before than any other youth. But at the same time, I think with what we're going with technology, social media, everything is very self-centered. That's what you get people saying, I'm self-made, you know, self this, self that. And I think that's not what the country should be like, because we are all trying to work together. The police work for us. I mean, we say that there may be other issues that is what they don't work for certain like ethnicities. Yes, we know that happens too, but really generally when you're in a country where you come from, you have doctors as yourself. I'm not a doctor. If I'm sick, I'll come to you. So I think when we open young people's mind to understand that's what sustainable development is, because when you say sustainable development volunteer, immediately think politics. People dying, it's poverty, have to go and help the orphans. No, sustainable development is not just orphans, you know. So I think slowly when young people begin to understand that, that's when we can move forward, and you see more young people coming to volunteer. They won't be afraid to speak about issues that affect us in society.
And it's, as you're saying, if they're already imagining that they can only be active in certain areas, that means that they're not using the full potential of their skill to, you know, help the causes that are out there.
Yeah.
So in your TED Talk, you used the phrase growing up in that unforgiveness to describe the environment that you grew up in. Can you tell me what's the story behind that choice of words?
So when I was preparing the TED Talk, I was really most of the talks that I do, I like to get myself in myself, because I think sometimes with activism you disconnect yourself. You're just talking general about certain you know, statistics and all of that. So when I did the TED Talk, I really wanted to look deep down and the journey where I come from. So, and that journey was a journey of unforgiveness. And I always talk about it. When you're born with HIV, it's different because it's not really, it hasn't really been your responsibility. So it was a long, it was a long journey to understand, to accept that it's not your own action, but you're born with this condition. And not even just that, just the environments where I come from. And I spoke about my grandparents slightly. You know, I grew up mostly with my mum's side of the family, so I didn't know much on my dad's side of the family. And growing up in environments in Congo, growing up in poverty, we weren't that poor, but we weren't rich either. But it was very, very hard, you know, growing up with people who don't treat you as you want, because you're young, you don't understand, you know, why people are treating you like that. So that journey was really, I mean, one day I'll write a book and talk more about it in depth. But I think that that journey of unforgiveness, you become very bitter, you become angry, because I grew up quite very angry. I've always, like, quick to anger. If something happens, I'll just have to say something. God has to work with that, because, and as a Christian, I always believe, you know, when you become a Christian, when you're born again Christian, there are certain issues now God has to deal with that you can't deal with it yourself. And that's what I spoke about, unforgiveness, because if I didn't forgive, I don't think I would have been doing my activism. I think I was taking so hard on myself as well. And that's what I do talks on vulnerability. I do talks on women. I do talks on forgiveness in life, because we are all here, but not everyone treats each other and everyone comes from a different life experience. So and I think that's the importance of my TED Talk, is getting people to understand that something is wrong in your life and you need to begin to accept it and deal with it. Because if you don't, like we see in London, like suicide is so high in London, it's happening every day, and especially in the group of 15 to 25-year-olds. I mean, you think of 15-year-old, what is 15-year-old gonna be crying out about? But you know, this is the society that we're living in. So with my TED Talk, I was even looking for a name. I was like, what title am I going to give it? I was looking everywhere. I was like, forgiveness. I saw one. I was like, I can't take that. But then because I listened to a lot of talks by Dr. Joy DeCroix. I don't know if you've heard of her. And, you know, one of her interviews, she just said, you know, you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. And that came in my mind, because when I was praying about my TED Talk, and one day I just heard, I was like, wait a minute. And I tapped it in. I was like, that's what my title is going to be. It's going to be about unforgiveness, vulnerability, moving forward. And moving forward doesn't always mean you have forgiven, but at least you're not at the same place. You're taking small steps to forgive that person, to forgive that thing, to forgive yourself as well. And basically that's why I spoke about unforgiveness, because it took a very, very long time to forgive people in my life who have hurt me, people who have brought me down, people who brought me tears, you know, so many scars. I've had so many scars. I'm still healing, but to get up there on stage and speak about that was honestly, but it was God's grace. So
we applaud your efforts. I'm really glad
that
you had the courage to do that, because you've benefited numerable people, I'm sure, with your story and with your bravery.
Thank you.
How have you been able to apply those life lessons about forgiveness to your activism? So like you mentioned, trying to motivate young people to take up activism. So how I influence people with that unforgiveness, I think being open. My Instagram, when people see it, because before I was a bit scared, I was like, people just go on my Instagram, all they see is HIV, all they see is forgiveness. Or sometimes it gets into me, I'm like, I want them to see me wear a nice outfit, you know. Sometimes you want to play that role in the social media. Everything is limelight, everything is nice, nice pictures, nice outfit, nice this. But then sometimes when God is speaking to me, it's like, but this is who you are right now. You're not who you are tomorrow, but this is who you are right now. So if you're in that journey of forgiveness, probably people who are not even there yet. So why not use that? Because to be honest with you, there's a lot of brokenness in
each and one of us that we haven't dealt with from the past. So if I can speak about that, because I'm not only am I not perfect, but I'm not in that place yet. And I can only get there if I can acknowledge that and people can see that. And I think if you are open enough to speak about that, because sometimes we think, like when I won the beauty pageant last year, people were like, wow, you become so successful. Oh my God. Wow. Congratulations on your success. And when I thought back, I said, what success? I'm not successful. Like, I'm not even selling my artwork yet. I'm not successful yet. So people, even with interviews I do, people see that, they're like, wow, you become... No, haven't become... I'm still opening up to people to understand the brokenness, the broken path that I've been through. And people can see that, this is part of life. A lot of us are very broken. You can have a PhD and you're a very, very broken person. So it's not title, it's not grace, it's not hair color or whatever it is, but it's getting people to understand that they are broken. So I hope that really is helping people, really, basically.
So let's talk a bit about your pageantry. How was that whole experience?
It was intense. Oh my God. It was so... I don't think I can ever do a beauty pageant again. It was so intense. Because at the time I was in third year.
Right.
So you can imagine you're in art school, because I just came back from South Africa and I entered a beauty pageant. I came back in the end of September and I just entered a beauty pageant in October. I went on tour. I went to volunteer with Youth Stop AIDS in that same month. I think it was end of November or beginning of November or October. Came back from that. Send my application form to go on tour with Youth Stop AIDS, and at that time I was writing my dissertation. And I also wrote my dissertation. I was doing the research when I was still in South Africa, so there was no... When we all slept, we switched off the lights, so I was switched on my light, what's it called, on my phone, so that I can read. And because my research is also quite intense, I was talking about spirituality and time and photography, so I was just like, I can't do this. So, and plus doing the beauty pageant, it really didn't help. I lost a lot of weight after the beauty pageant. I was so vulnerable. I was so sad. People didn't know, but I was last year. I was very, very, very sad because I put myself through so much and giving out so much, and I didn't have time to just heal. And I think that as well. Never do that because it's not healthy. So I think that's what it was very intense. But within that intensity, I met some amazing girls who are doing incredible work. We had Ingrid, who is one of the girls that I met through the beauty pageant. She's actually a digital executive woman. I don't know how to put. I think she's a digital executive something, marketing, and she's just so smart. She wants to become a billionaire. Nice. And I can see her doing that. I have there's a woman called I call them women because we're not young girls anymore. She is I forgot her name, Morgan. She's a singer. She's incredible. Like, she's amazing. All of them individually were amazing. And because there was that sisterhood in us, there was no competition, honestly. We were told, oh, the day of the competition, you guys are going to be screaming, shouting. No, we didn't do any of that. We were there. I bought some jewelries for the girls because I bought from South Africa. I was like, oh, hey, let's share it out. We helped each other doing our hair. If there was makeup, we did all of that. I had a woman who was at the time when I was doing my activism, and she came in to do the filming for the beauty pageant because she wanted to interview me. So we were all there just natural. There wasn't a sense of, oh, I'm better. I mean, it was a competition. We all had to work very hard for it, but that putting someone else down because you want to win, it was none of that. So I appreciate that.
That probably made it a lot more enjoyable.
Yes, it did.
Were having a true competition.
Exactly.
That you were doing your best, not destroying someone.
And a lot of us were going through a lot individually. So we had phone calls from each other where we were crying. And I was well going through a lot as well in my heart. So to have those girls around, it was very, very, very great because a lot of us, I can assure you, a lot of us were going through. Everybody individually went through. Was going through some people didn't speak of it because, like I said, some people don't understand that they're broken. They try to hide it. But with a lot of girls there, we was all going through a lot. So I think that's why we supported each other.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've made some lifelong connections.
Yeah, definitely.
So what was your platform when you were entering the pageant? What did you want people to get out of your performance? Yeah, so
I did a performance. I did a play. At first it was a monologue, but because we had so many poets and monologue, and they told us, guys, you need to do something else. We can't just have you doing monologues. And we had singers too, but there was just too many people doing poets. And I said, okay, I'm going to do a play. So I wrote this play. It was basically about a young girl who is 15 years old, who is born with HIV, living with HIV, and she gets bullied in school because we had 8 minutes, so it was a short play, and I got these young girls from my pastor's daughter and her friends. I was like, oh, do you know anyone? I went all the way. I traveled so far to get them, but they were willing to come and help. And they were like 16, 17. So that was a perfect age to look 15, for all of us to look 15. And basically in the play is just showing discrimination, stigma, and being young and not understanding what this illness is. And I've been in that place myself. That's basically what the play was about. However, there was a twist because when we were doing rehearsals, I had to change it so many times because I was like, no, this part is too long. This character, you need to work in this character, work in yourself. I'm not being convinced enough, blah, blah, blah. I knew I was going to convince people. Why? Because I was already broken, so I can portray that brokenness on stage. However, when we were doing the rehearsal, I didn't tell them that I was going to go on stage and deliver and tell people that I'm HIV positive. They didn't know that at all. It basically was in the play. The girl was playing. She just saying, "Oh, my name is." I fabricated this name. I said, I'm HIV and this. I'm 15 years old, and just those, I forgot the term in drama where you leave people cliffhanger. Yeah, so I left a lot of cliffhangers where people, just thought it was a play. But then at the end, on the night, the 1st of April, after the play finished, I was still my mic and I said, my name is Horcelie Sinda. I was born with HIV. And I think I said something about, in 1995, I was 1 or 2 million. I didn't get that statistic right. It was just random. And then I said, what did I say along with my quotes? I forgot. I said something at the end, and then that's where that's how people knew from the community everywhere. People from the BBC was there on the day of the show. I didn't even know this woman. After giving my speech, people applauded. I didn't know. I just went back because I was crying. My sister told me people were applauding. Oh my god! So I didn't even see that because obviously it's all dark. But after the show, the woman who was a journalist, she was just like, I want to interview. I was just like, I'm so tired. It was 2 a.m. I'm so tired, and I didn't know she was from BBC. I was just like, okay, one interview, because I only did one more, but then one of the managers was like, no, don't do any interview. So I was just like, okay, you know what, let me just do an interview with her. Did an interview with her, went back home. My best friend drove me home. Woke up the next day, I think it was either the same day or the day after, 3 days, I think it was like the 3rd. I saw, those BBC stories you see this on Instagram. I still have it because I saved it. Beauty pageant, girl with something, Congolese beauty pageant with HIV. I was like, what? Like, how did they get this? Like, what? And everything was filmed. There's clips of, you go online, you type it, you will see it. And I think that's what gave me the publicity. And I'm glad, like, I'm so grateful to God the way he worked, because HIV is just not even stigma. It's like the most disgusting illness people think you can ever have in your life. So for people to take in a very positive way, and to be willing, with the wonderful messages I received from so many people from all around the world. I was featured in Essence magazine. MTV contacted me. I had an interview with MTV. So all of that gave me courage as well. So I'm grateful that people took it as what it was. And so basically being on that stage, it was just being vulnerable. And I was, because I kept myself so strong during the beauty pageant because I really wanted to win. I was there on time. I was getting my outfits on time. I spent beauty pageant so much money. So I was there on time. I was doing all of that. I had to keep myself strong because I didn't want to cry all those tears, and then when I'm on stage I don't cry. There's nothing comes out. So I wanted to keep that. So on being on that stage, I wanted people to see that vulnerability and see that this is this has created a lot of brokenness in my life. So
And how was that moment on stage, sort of revealing your secret, so to speak?
It was scary.
I bet.
Because I was the 3rd contestant, contestant number 3. It would literally, we won like this. The girl who was the first contestant number 1, she came 3rd, and contestant number 2 came 2nd, and I came 1st. So it was just like a 3-2-1. Even in all the photographs that we did, the photo shoots, we were at the front. So when contestant number 2 did her performance, which was incredible. So when she was finishing, I was just like, God, I don't know if I'm going to do this, but this is what I'm going to do. And at that period of time, I was also in prayer. I was fasting. So I was like, okay, God, just take control. Went there. very, very, very naked. That's how I can explain it. I was very, very naked in front of people's eyes. And I just said it, and I was so scared, and I was crying because I just wanted to say it, because it's been such a long time, you know, and when I did say it, I just left this. I literally, I didn't even care what people were thinking. I don't know what you are thinking was going through your mind. My friends, they didn't know I was going to do that. My family who came, they didn't know I was going to do that. So I just finished it, gave the mic to the presenter, left. I left the stage. And that's literally how and I think that worked well. I didn't stay and try to get people. No, I just left everything. And of course, after the play, we still had other things to do. And that's it. And then we were asked, I remember we were asked the final walk before they bring us back again to announce the winner. They asked us, each of us, there was 9 of us. And they said, if you won Miss Congo UK right now, if you were the queen, what will you do in the community? And I remember saying, oh, it sounds so arrogant, but I remember saying, it's not what I'm going to do, it's what I'm already doing. And I think that's what gave me the courage. That's what really made me the winner, because I was already doing activism outside. I knew slightly about African culture, Congolese culture, and to become a winner means I can just use the skills that I learned from before and bring it forward.
Yes, excellent, and well done on winning.
Thank you.
What was your family's reaction to your revelation?
It was because a lot of family members didn't know anyway. Like I said, a lot of people who are HIV positive in families, some families members don't even know. You know, since being in the community, there's people who come to me and tell me my mum's HIV positive, Horcelie, or my sister's HIV positive. Sometimes say, yeah, a lot of family members don't know this, but we're just telling you because obviously they know me. So even that, to me, that's basically was the same case. A lot of people didn't know. So I received phone calls from aunties in Germany, phone calls from this person in Congo saying, I saw you have AIDS. I said, no. I don't have AIDS. Like, it was so annoying as well sometimes. It was so frustrating. Oh my God, I saw this on a magazine. It was written, is this you? I'm like, yes, it is me. So it was very shocking, I think. But at the same time, eventually, I think it's because of the personality that I have and my, not even just, but I think it's my character. Naturally, I've always been confident. Growing up, I've always been a confident person and outspoken. And I think that's what helped. So no one can bring some negativity and try to say certain things, even families. No one did that. Nobody at all. I mean, there was a few misunderstanding. That's what I can say, a few misunderstanding. But there wasn't really people who were like, oh my God, you know, what is this? Or, you know, we're not going to talk to you anymore. I didn't get it. My friends were supportive as well. They didn't know either. They only found out last year. So people would say, oh, did that stop your friendship? Did they end it? I said no. They just knew that it must have been hard for you to deal with that. So we understand. So no, the people have been very supportive.
Did anyone reach out to you to say, you know, because of what you've done, I'm now brave enough to reveal to my friends and family? I
think in the African community it's very hard. You can be the bravest person as people say I am. But it doesn't necessarily mean that people will be confident just because there lots of them come from, especially we're talking Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, lots of them already come from communities where people commit suicide. I was interviewed by Mambo magazine, and one of the interviewers told me he had a sister from Zimbabwe and he was checking up on her. How are you? How's things? Are you taking your medication? You know, daily. But she died because she stayed at home all the time at home, closed the doors to the community that she was, didn't take her medication, and that's basically suicide. And I've seen as well a woman that came to me. She had also had a sister who died of AIDS. This happened, like she said, she died in 2000 and I don't know, 16 or something, 15. And this is 2000s, and you're thinking what? So I don't blame them for not coming forward. And because if it took me 10 years, then how long would it take some people? So I think what my aim is that even though they may, because you don't have to tell people your status, but if you hear my story, if you see the work that I'm doing, at least you can stay on treatment. And I think that's the most important thing. You stay alive, basically. Exactly. And I think if people are doing that, I don't know, no one has come to reach out. There's a few people on my Instagram who come, oh my God, I don't know, I've just been diagnosed last year. I get those messages. And I get even messages about other illnesses. And sometimes when you get those messages, people forget you're not an expert. So people expect you to know so much. but I always refer them to other organizations. But at least I can tell this person is concerned in, if they're seeing you alive, that you, not just confidence, but they're seeing you healthy.
Yes.
I think that will encourage them to be healthy as well.
Yes.
So yeah.
One of my favorite quotes is, your presence is the best form of protest.
Yeah.
And I think exactly as you said, when people see your Instagram and see that you are living your life and enjoying it, then it gives them a lot more hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because obviously my experience with HIV positive is from the point of view of a doctor. It's very different to your average everyday person. The principles of my training are that you treat every patient as an individual and respect their rights and their decisions and all the rest of it. So our aim in a clinical setting is not to treat an HIV positive person as special in that sense, or give them any preferential treatment. It's to treat them as if you would treat any other patient. So being someone who is, very active on social media, how do you feel about being labeled as the HIV positive activist?
Sometimes I don't call myself a HIV positive activist. I put HIV and AIDS campaigner. That's what I put, because even on my bio on Instagram is literally a servant of God, and I said I'm an activist and an artist. Just activist, because I do other activism and other stuff as well. So I don't think I get that much laboring or labor. But in terms of treatments, I think in the UK, not all, but I think in the UK or in London, because that's where I'm based, in London, you get a lot of the treatments, all the consultants, they say that the consultants, HIV consultants, or nurses and doctors that I've spoken to, who have been so amazing. And I think it's not just because they're doctors. I think it's because some people literally generally care about people's health. Because there are doctors who, like, I was speaking in the Lewisham Hospital, like, I think it was on Wednesday, and one of the doctors that was there was telling us how sometimes, even here in the UK, you'll have a patient that's HIV positive in a ward, a certain ward, and there were certain nurses to go and attend that patient, and the nurse wouldn't want to go because, and they'll pass it on. Oh, do you want to go? Oh no, I don't want to go. You want to go? And you think to yourself, but you're a doctor and you're a nurse. You've seen so many things, like you see gonorrhea and chlamydia. That's even like so crazy when you look at it. But you don't want to attend someone who is HIV positive. So it's I guess it's mentality, is your mentality as a person, not even as a doctor, as a person. Because if you don't understand that, then what's the point of you being a consultant? Because at the end of the day, even you're still a human being. So I think in terms of treatments, even the same way I always say about Congo, we can have so many doctors, we can have so many nurses attending people HIV positive, but if these nurses are not properly trained of how to speak to people, even in South Africa is so crucial. Some doctors would just tell you, oh, you're HIV positive. That was your fault. Like, you should have known better. Like, come on now. Like, there's so many condoms. Why didn't you use a condom? The person's a human being. Just, you're telling me, hey, doctors are not sexually active. Of course they are sexually active. Some are married and others aren't. But even with that, it's just, I think it's a conscious having wisdom as well of how to attend people, because the person is vulnerable. A person is expecting you to give them information that would support them, that would give them courage, that will affirm them. So I think that's what it is in terms of. But in the UK, I've never had any differences compared to some. I've never felt like they treated me any different. But I think because I came from a child ward from where I was, or child hospital, until going to adult. So some people, I think there was people talking about the transition, and for me the transition wasn't that bad. It was still normal, because there's some of the doctors I saw from when I was a child, I saw them again. Even my nurse who delivered the news to me saying I was positive, I still see her to this day, and it's been like 13 years. So and they've been, and I see that passion in them, and I think that's what connects you to your doctor, is that human passion about other human beings. So
absolutely. And it's that you talking about people's attitudes towards HIV, even other sexually transmitted illnesses, is one of the things I've had problems with, because I'm quite a strong advocate. Let's say I wouldn't call myself an activist, I'm not active, but I'm a strong advocate for general health, but also particularly about HIV and other sexually transmitted infections. But because I'm female and because I'm young, whenever I talk about it, people always assume that it's because I'm doing something.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things I did, I used to be the vice president of the African Caribbean Society in Cardiff.
Okay.
We had a Christmas party and I gave out condoms.
Okay.
To everyone. I didn't care if it was boy, girl, I don't care. You got a free condom and it had a map to the sexual health clinic. And everyone was just like, why are you giving out condoms? And I just kept telling them, I was like, you know, African Caribbean people are the number 2 highest prevalence of HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
It doesn't
in
matter
the UK,
how you get it.
yeah,
exactly. Doesn't matter how you get it, but this is information on services for support. This is the clinic. If you want to go get your free HIV test, you can order the kit if you don't want to go to the clinic. Yeah. But people are still hung up on the fact that a girl is giving them condoms. Yeah. And I'm like, come on,
I think because they're even in African Caribbean community in the UK is more women who are HIV positive than men. I think I'm not sure, but I think it's twice as much than compared to men. And I think I read an article and someone said, why is it we don't talk about that? A lot of these women contracted from men, some from their husbands, some from their partner who they live in, some of their partners are bisexual, and all of that as well. And I think that concern is what I get it, because I think with me being a woman that is HIV positive, with me, I've never faced that stigma because I was born it. So that's what I always tell people: when you're born with it, you get sympathized, you get support. People can easily say, that is so sad. But when you if I said this at the talk when I was speaking Pads for Africa earlier this year. It's a Congolese NGO, and I said if I contracted at a later age, even just being 22, no one would say unless I am still the character I am and I'm able to do that. But people can easily bring me down, and I think that's a problem as well. The association of HIV and women is such a huge stigma, and I think also women's sexual health is so crucial. I think in Africa, women need to start understanding more about their reproductive health. Yes, absolutely. I was speaking at the womb room, and when I was there was a doctor who was speaking about the woman's pelvic. I didn't even know that, and I've been to school here. I didn't even know how to drink so much water. Sleep is so important. I didn't know your breathing, even how we breathe, is just because you're breathing doesn't mean you're breathing healthily, if that makes sense. And just those things, and I think it's so crucial to women's reproductive health, because at the end of the day, if a woman's productive health is crucial and is impacting in a very negative way, then there's no children in the world. Like, where do we even produce? Because men and women reproduce, but there's the woman who carries the child. And I've met so many incredible women. The founder of the womb room, she's not, I don't want to use the word victim, but she's a one woman herself who talks about her reproductive health and how she had I think it was fibroid, and fibroid affects so many Afro-Caribbean women everywhere, not just here in the UK. And she was talking about, and I forgot what she had, and she had surgery where they removed, I'm not sure if they removed her womb or they removed her ovaries, because that happens as well. And when they did, she can't have children anymore, and she hasn't even hit 30, and that is emotionally draining. So and I think with the work that she does, she said some businesses forget that women, when this is impacting them, it also means the business is not going to go forward, because if they keep taking days off work, then you don't have that. So I think it's so important, like in the African community, like we discuss these things, a woman's health. Not just, I'm not saying we don't talk about men, because men need to be present, and I think that's what makes it even more crucial, because you could be married to a woman. And I think that stigma as well comes in Africa, and especially Africa. If they're not having a child in the next 2-3 years, they say the woman is the problem. Sometimes not the woman, sometimes the man. So if you sit down with both men and women, and even with my HIV, I speak to both men. I speak to older men who are like 50 something years old, and I'm only 23. Look at the huge gap. But I'm like, no, you need to hear this as well, because you're probably going to have children in the future. So I think that's what it is how HIV is associated with women, and how also women don't know their reproductive health. A lot of young girls don't. They don't. I have friends who have missed period, and I have friends as well who have complication with their ovaries, and that's going to affect their fertility in the future. And already you think, oh, you're 23, why are you worried about that? Because now you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice to have a baby or not. So I think that affects a lot of women. And when we talk, and I love talking about HIV in relation to a woman's reproductive health, because it's so crucial, especially in countries like Congo, where rape is used as a weapon of war. And if a woman is being raped every minute a woman is raped, 8 women are being raped, then we are, how do I put it? the human reproduction is not going to happen. And we're not going to have leaders in Congo. So that's what when people think you're just talking about HIV, it's like, no, there's so many other factors that's connected to that we need to wake up and we need to understand a bit more. Then you won't have, a woman who's giving out condoms, because I don't personally give out condoms, because I feel like the reality is people don't use it, and no, people really don't care. And it's so crazy. People don't care about this other stuff.
Crazy, isn't it?
They really don't. So I think, but when you begin to educate people about it, I think when you just say sex, people get scared. But when you talk about reproductive health, that's when people are like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, if I'm getting this STIs, that can affect my yes, it does affect reproductive health. So I think that's when people will understand why we're doing this work that we're doing until this day.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to what you were saying about whenever you bring up sex, people get very afraid. I have a very interesting parent. My mom is an artist. So we have these kind of discussions quite openly. And I remember sitting in the airport and I was telling her, I was like, Mom, safe sex is everyone's responsibility. She's like, it sure is. But, there are a lot of people in my country who can't have that conversation with their mother. They'll be like, well, do you know about safe sex? Why are we talking about this? But it is an important discussion to
absolutely,
have. Because especially, I'm from the British Virgin Island. I was very surprised that even after Hurricane Maria hit my country, that we're still having a very high teenage pregnancy rate. Because there is no infrastructure, there's no jobs. People who had jobs now lost everything. And there's still people walking around having children. I was like, wow, y'all are
That's the same in Congo.
Brave,
that's the same in Congo. I said it to my driving instructor. I said, if I was in Congo, it doesn't even matter, like, I'm HIV. It'll be most likely I'm gonna be pregnant, because what else is there for me to look forward to?
Exactly.
Like, there's no jobs. I know by the time I turn 30, I'm not gonna get a job. I've got my degree, but there's no jobs. And because here in the UK there's so many community work, that's what we need, more volunteers, because people want change, but no one wants to go and volunteer. It makes no sense. And I see that a lot, even with, like I say, young people in my community, when I miss the hear volunteer because no money involved, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that because I want to, I want to build a business. I want to be a CEO. Even when you have a CEO, you will need cleaners, you need people, even the small ones that we don't consider as a big job. Cleaners, we think, oh, they're just, no, a cleaner does a huge job for our community. So people need to understand the importance of volunteering, because it helps so much. If we had that in Congo, we had volunteers, do you really think we'll be still here? No, we'll move forward in so many issues, but no one wants to go and volunteer. Everyone wants to say Congo will change. The current president, he needs to go. This needs to happen. But you're not doing anything. Like, you need to go and volunteer. And volunteering, yes, it's a free work, but my friend, you learn so much from volunteering. So
you get to contribute a lot of things as
exactly
well. Not only do you gain, but other people gain
exactly
as well.
Exactly.
So I just want to redirect the conversation towards general health. So obviously you have a very strong personal character. How do you take care of yourself?
How do I take care of myself? As a person who's living HIV, yes, I take my medication daily. Not always on time, not gonna lie, but I do take it daily because it's so important to take your medication daily. It's really not scary, but people living HIV, some people take 1 tablet a day, as myself. Some people take 2, some people take 3, but it's really not that hard. It's just your mental state. What are you telling yourself? What is this medication doing to you? You think so much. Oh, people telling taking me treatment. You have to accept it's part of your life now. And how I take care of myself, I go to church, I pray. That has been literally the crucial factor. It has been the most supportive thing for me, that's keeping me standing until this day. My spiritual path with God is been crucial. Having healthy relationships, I don't know, not relationships, not boy and girl relationship, like boyfriend girlfriend, no, as in just general relationship with people. That is so important. I think whatever illness you have, whatever you're going through, sometimes when you don't have healthy relationship, it doesn't help. But I really try to keep my relationship with my friends. I have friends since I was back in secondary school. We're still friends to this day. And why? Because we have a healthy relationship. You need to cut certain people in your life, because if you are sick, you're going through mental things, some people really don't help, and some people really don't care. Like I said, I've got some friends who are not so much concerned about my activism, but as that stopped me being friends with them, no, I'm still friends with them. I can't push them to be concerned about my work. But healthy relationship is really, really crucial. Taking time for yourself, being healthy as well. having time, like going out, you know, that really helps. Having a social life, basically, that is healthy. Not like, well, if that's one's decision. If you're getting drunk every single day, sometimes I think it doesn't help in your mental well-being, because you're trying to crush the situation and pretend like it doesn't exist by getting drunk and that's not healthy. So for me, really, healthy relationship can help anybody. You have a healthy relationship in your marriage life. You have a healthy relationship with your sister, with your sister-in-law, with your brothers, if you have brothers, with whoever whoever guardian is looking after you. Those relationships is what makes us who we are into this day. Yeah.
So, where do you see yourself moving in the future with your activism? What have you got on the horizon?
With my activism, I see myself working with doctors, as yourself, but really getting into the handiwork. And when I say the handiwork, meaning, you know, really working with patients. I can't do that because I'm going to Congo next year, but I can't just go and work with patients like that. But I think once you've had that credibility with doctors, you're more given the opportunity to work hand in hand with patients, to do workshops with patients in Congo. That's where I see my work. I see myself talking more about the psychological effects of certain things. I see myself doing talks, not just on HIV, but really on health, global health. Even my artwork, I see myself doing lectures in the future for my artwork. And because my activism, my art is slightly related, not my HIV activism, but other activism that I do. So I see myself delivering talks, really doing late lectures, debates as well, if people want to call that. That's really where I see myself in the future, and having my own studio in Congo, having an art gallery, because there's not many artists from Congo. So I love to really explore that part of my creativity in the future.
And you can speak anything into existence.
Yes.
I look forward to going to your art gallery opening.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a bit about your art? So what sort of materials do you use? Where do you draw your inspiration?
Yeah, I use photographic. I think photography was the base of my artwork, being since in sixth form. I was always experimenting with the cameras, and at that time we had free darkroom, because in university I think you have to pay for the darkroom. I think it's free, but I don't think I used it to advantage, because it was in a different campus and just had to travel far. And then again, I was probably just being lazy, but so my artwork really explores identity, as I was speaking about earlier. African identity, Black identity, just identity as a person, myself. I think identity is I was identifying for myself, where I come from, who I am, what aspects of my life has made me who I am today. And I was very interested in that. And then being in school is just literally just identity. Then when I went to sixth form, I studied in Cedric St. Martin's, and my work kind of shifted from just being about identity, and I think it slightly became, because even identity Black is political, but it went in a path of media. I was looking at the representative of Congo in the media. How do we represent ourselves? How do we see ourselves? You see doctors like Dr. Joy DeCroix, as I spoke about. He speaks about the post-traumatic effects of slavery. And you also see Dr. What's her name? I think she passed away. She passed away recently. Dr. Something Willis. I forgot her name. But she's also one American, but she again talks about the post-traumatic effects of slavery. So I was listening to that a lot, because it just helps you. So in doing my foundation degree, it was mainly looking at the media, the effects it has. I mean, we talk about it a lot, but when a group of people are being represented in a certain way, it affects their behavior, it affects how they look at themselves, it affects their surroundings, it affects their communities. And this is what we see in America. Black are labeled ghetto. We see even here, Black are labeled working class or poor. Is because of how we are being represented, not just in the media, everywhere really. So that's where the work went. And then when I went to finally do my degree, my 3-year degree, it was more looking now into religion as well, because religion is such a huge part of African identity. And then I was looking more, all deep stuff. I still haven't finished my research. I think there's going to be like a 10-year research. But I was looking more of, because as a Christian, I'm Black and identify as a Christian. That again is another crucial thing, another debatable thing. And that only came about because when I was evangelizing on the street, a man approached me. He said, "What is your name?" I said, "My name is Horcelie." He's like, "What are you guys doing here on the street talking about this white religion?" I said, "White religion?" He was like, and he said, yeah, what are you guys doing?" And then he said to me, Yeah, he asked me what's your name. I said, my name is Os. He said, no, not that one. Your African name. I said, my African name? I said, well, my name is Horcelie Sinda Wambongo. He said, Wambongo. That's the name. That's the ancestry name I was looking for. And I've never, ever in my life been a Christian. At that time, I was 19 years old. And I just started my degree. At that time, I've never been approached in such a way. No one has ever asked me for my African name. My name has always been Horcelie. So he was the first man that I've met for him to identify me as that. Not necessarily label. I don't want to use the word label. He identified me as that. And I was like, what does that mean? My African name. And what does that mean? My white religion. What does that mean? So my work shifted into that, and I started producing work, researching, doing work on that. And it was mostly me performance, because sometimes I do a lot of performance as well in my work. And then it shifted from that as well. And I met another man who was from Malawi, one of the best lectures we've had. I think it was about him as an artist. I forgot his name. He came from Malawi to give us a lecture. And he spoke about time. And I've always been interested about it. I think because of the circumstances I've been through as well, and the age that I am. So it always makes me question, time and how I've used it. And he didn't speak about time, what I enjoyed. He didn't speak about time as time, but he spoke about it in terms of playfulness. And I was so interested. I was like, what does that mean? And he was talking about how you can literally talk about the most serious thing, but if you're playful about it, people will be interested.
Yes.
Then it's not intense. And I really wanted to speak to him, and everyone was like, I don't want. So I finally got the time to sit down in the canteen and speak to him. And it was one of our university lectures was there, and I was just like, can you just like go, because you guys have his number and everything, you can always contact him. So but I sat down, we have a good conversation. I say good because he enlightened me into my work, and I showed him some of the work that I did. He was like, I mean, that was just his personal opinion anyway, but he made me think. He said, why do you have to dress African to identify as African? And again, that made me think, what is my work is about? What is African art? Do I have to make art that immediately, because when you're a black artist and I'm saying black artists, already people have an idea what your work is going to be about. It's going to be about black issues. It's going to be about black this. It's going to be about black that, and you're going to exhibit yourself in black exhibitions. So, and he said he doesn't like that idea. He said, I want to produce work that is not just universal, but it speaks to everybody. And also, I'm not just a black artist. I speak about other things. I don't have to exhibit work with just black artists. And he said he had problems with curators saying all those kind of things. I may not necessarily agree with to some extent, but I think it opened my eyes. So since I've left university, I haven't made work about myself. I'm now moving towards making work still about African people. My work it's always going to be about people, but people from Africa in sub-Saharan Africa. So I'm more concerned in people's lives, their nature of themselves, and the human connection. I think it shifted to that because the nature of the work that I'm doing, activism, and also crucially because being a Christian, when I was evangelizing on the streets, I met so many vulnerable. I was so shocked that this is London. People were crying to me on the streets. They're like, I need help. I remember one woman, she said, my son, he's always angry and he's having a kidney transplant, and they haven't found somebody yet. Can you please pray? And this was in the woman was crying into tears. This was an old woman. I saw her vulnerability. I was like, and that's what pushed me as well to do to be open about my status, because I saw how vulnerable people are in London. I said, oh wow. Not saying that I have to photograph them in their vulnerability, but their stories really captures people. And I think that's what I'm going to work towards with my work. It's still going to be the same essence of African spirituality and religion and all of that, but I think it's now going to be used in a more, I don't use the word authentic, but in a less representative way. And representative meaning I'm not dressing the person's not dressing in African clothing to identify as African. I mean, that's what makes us as well African to some extent, because when you go to Africa, you see women dressed in African clothing, but I also think because of identity shift, you see just people wearing jeans, but they have a more story to tell about who they are from Africa. And I think that's what my work. I'll still produce the similar aspect as well within my work, black identity, slavery, and how it has shaped our behavior, shaped who we are as black people, as even as Congolese people. And even now I'm very, very concerned about the post conflict effects of what it has had on us Congolese people. And because you sometimes you see Congolese people, they say they're not concerned about Congo. I'm like, how do you think like that? Exactly. And then you don't blame them because the mind just shut down to that part of the world. So I'm very interested in that. So hopefully God will guide me to really explore that part of my work. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Going to what you were saying about identity, as a Caribbean person, you know, you were saying it's the first time anyone ever asked you for your African name. I get that question so many times, it irritates the hell out of me. Because I know I'm from the Caribbean. I know that my people don't have a history because all the records were destroyed. Like, I always get some African person wanting to educate me. And they're like, oh, that's not your real name. Christianity isn't your real... Like, I know that. But this is where I am. Like, let me work with what I have so I can build an identity for myself. I know that there's a lot of missing pieces, but I always found, and this is my own personal thing, I always found people from the Caribbean or from the United States who tried to identify with a particular African country. It always felt very fake to me. So I'll meet some people who are from the Caribbean or they were born here, and they will, like, they will say, I'm African because we're all from Africa. And I was like, yes, I agree with you. However, I grew up in the Virgin Islands. I grew up on Virgin Gorda. My identity is very much in tune with the place that I grew up and with the people I grew up with. That's what I identify as. We could talk about Christopher Columbus and slavery and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, whenever someone asks me to picture home, I picture, you know, my grandmother's
where you grew up.
porch. Exactly.
So I think again it depends on personal also experience. For me to get to the place and be so interested in this is because of the encounter I had. And there's a work as well by I forgot his name, but he makes work about like religion, and like he has a work where people falling from the sky, earth, sand and fire, and some people kind of criticize his work because they say he's trying too hard to represent this idea of God. However, again, like I said, he in one of the interviews he said, I've made this particular work because of when my parents passed away. So I think sometimes people forget it's the personal experience that someone has gone through to identify as that. And then at the same time, even though it's a personal experience, it doesn't stop you from knowing your history. Because I think when I look at you, I see your natural hair, already I have an idea. And I think that's how us, even Africans ourselves, how we judge ourselves. We see a woman with weave, we say, she's less African because, you know, she has weave, you know.
And somehow having weave makes her exactly what African are, that's such a big part of the culture.
And, you know, you're light skin, and then there's a lot of colorism as well. Even within our own world, as African people, as black people, we have our own issues too, based on slavery that we are still dealing with. So I think that is a personal thing. I love not speaking my language. I think that's the most powerful thing that I have, because I know a lot of young people, Congolese people who've moved here, have lost their language. I'm like, and how do you go back home and build the country? Because I always tell this to my friend, I say, the Western will never ever write the institution in other people's languages.
That's good.
They will never do that. Yet still in Africa today, our institution is still written in their languages. And I think that's when again it shifts us as identity. But then I think, what country did I see recently? They said now they're going to be writing things in their language, or Swahili, or so I can't remember. It was one of the African countries. But then someone said, "But that's funny because this article is written in English." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's very true." So I think it's great. Yes, English was imposed upon us to speak, but at the same time we've used English at advantage, because if I can communicate with you today, it's because of the English language that I have. And another African would say, oh, let's speak our language, but other people are not going to understand, because we're trying to reach a universal community that people understand us. So I think it's a personal experience, but it doesn't stop you from knowing where you come from. I think a lot of African parents who have raised their children here, no matter where they are in the world, I think it's so important for them to teach their kids, even if they don't know the whole history. Like, you're not going to teach them. You probably don't know the whole history. I don't know the whole history. But it's so important for me, I always say, if you're from Nigeria, you speak Yoruba, speak to them Yoruba. If you are Nigerian, you speak Igbo, speak to them Igbo. If you're Congolese, speak Lingala, Swahili, Chiluba, speak to them in that language, because when they get back home, they don't need to worry. If I got lost in Congo, even though I don't know the slang so much, but I can never be lost, because I can always speak to somebody for direction in my country. And you know, you see the movie Lost in Translation, and you see that that gap. Sometimes you want to express so much, but you realize they won't understand me. So I think for me, the first thing is always language, because language says a lot about a people's history, and it's so powerful. And I think in the Caribbean, I don't think a lot of Caribbeans know how to speak African languages because of the history as well. So, but I think those who are willing to, they should, and those even not necessarily Caribbean, those African people who want to, like you, I think I liked what you said earlier, that sometimes the Caribbean shouldn't be Africa was so fake. I think I see that a lot. Some people criticize me, but I think sometimes I see that a lot in African American. I won't say African. That's again political, but I see that a lot even in movies. I see they're trying to do the African accent. I'm just like, this is just so embarrassing.
Oh, that's so painful.
Yeah, so I was like, this is so embarrassing.
It's like you couldn't find anyone from that country. Yeah.
So and also I think because sometimes when, like you said, when your history has been lost, it's very hard to identify yourself as African. It's very hard to identify yourself as Black. And I don't blame people because that's their world. That's where New York is, where they come from. New York is where they're born. But then at the same time, even though you are American, as even Black Americans are not calling themselves Americans or identifying as Americans, like we always said, the application form does not say American. And it reminds you, you are the other.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I was watching this documentary, which I can't remember the name of it, but it was so interesting. There was, it followed 6 Black women. One of the women, it's debatable whether or not she was Black.
Yeah.
So she grew up in an Amish community with her white mother, and her father was an Arab Egyptian.
Yeah.
But she said, Egypt is in Africa, therefore I'm African, therefore I'm Black.
Yeah.
But she looked white, had, you know, soft curly hair.
Is she the one from America?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen her. She has Afro-ish. That's the other one. Okay.
This was a documentary that was quite a while ago.
Oh, okay.
I'll see if I can find the link for you.
Yeah.
But throughout, so the documentary is like an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
For the whole hour of this documentary, she's like, I am Black. I want to be identified as Black. My father was Egyptian. Even though I grew up around white people, I identify as Black. And by the end of the hour, I was like, okay, I could kind of see, where she's coming from. I can understand that, she has this tie to Africa and whatever. Even though it's an Arab Egyptian, but never mind.
Yeah.
So the last half hour, they asked us like, when you apply to colleges in the U.S., what ethnicity do you take since you're
African?
So adamant that you're African? And she paused and she said, I take white. And I was like,
that's it, you've lost me.
I was like, a whole hour just out the window. And she was like, because I know that I stand a better chance of getting in as a white person.
You see the privilege.
Exactly.
The privilege. That is so, like, Africa, even just the whole concept of Africa it's a whole history of its own. And like a lot of researchers found that everybody comes from Africa, so which means everyone would identify as Africans. You have Africans who were born in Africa, moved to Asia, and they've mixed, because the whole world has mixed like so much. Not all, but the majority have mixed so much. You go to if you go to like Asia, when I say Asia, like China, some of the Chinese are Black, like they are really, really Black, and they have mixed. There have been Black people who've lived in Asia. They've mixed there as well, and there've been. There's also, even in the Caribbean, there's also some, when you look at the features, judging from the feature, you see some Caribbeans they've got features of Asian features as well, because some Asians have big noses and full lips and all of that. And so it's something that, like I said, I don't understand colorism as well, because with all this so much mixture that's happened in the world, some white people come from African kind of mix. If you go back, they probably have Black in them. And that's what you see. Remember, there's couples who are both white and they give birth to a Black child. Or you have a Black couple that give birth to a white child. You're like, when did the woman cheat or any of that? And we ask, because you go back in history. And I think that's when that's what some people are saying, I'm just human. I get that you're just, we are all humans. Yes, but I think is the countries that we come from, the barriers that were already created as human beings, as ourselves. Again, that it becomes a crucial factor, like the borders that we've had around us, that has kind of said, this is my land, I don't want other people part of it. I was watching a movie called PAA, PAA, made in India, and it was about a boy who had a condition, I forgot the condition, where you age quicker. It started with a P, I forgot what it's called. But at the beginning of the movie, he won an award. He didn't know that was his father because his father left his mum. But anyway, that's a long story. So, and he held the globe, the world, and he painted it all white. Not saying white as skin, but just painted it all white, plain. The whole world was plain. So, meaning that you can't identify, say, this is where I come from. Yeah. This is who I am. This you couldn't know that because, like I said, it's the borders, the frontiers that we've created in ourselves. But at the same time, these borders also create security. Yes. We may all be humans, but not every human treats humans the way. Because if we really had to, like again, for me, I don't agree when people say love is love. We all know. No, that's not the reality. I can go to a country, they'll kill me. Like, because I'm black. We saw in Liberia recently, earlier this year, there are slaves, black slaves in Liberia. And you ask yourself, if this love is love that we're talking, why can't they take them in? Because borders, because security, and not even just that. I don't think it's just border security, but I think also because how they think of other people as. Like, and again, like I was saying, representation. They see black people as a poor country. When I was in university, there was one girl who stood, one of that artists came from Malawi, and he said something. It was like, because Africa, something Africa, and then she held her hand. She said, yeah, but Africa's poor. And I was like, and she was white, and I said, this is what you think of me. For you to say Africa is poor, this is what you see of me. Like, I'm a poor person, poor me. I came here to get a degree in the UK because there's no other degrees in Congolese. That's why I'm here, because I'm so poor. And then he said something. That's what I loved him. He was like, according to who? Exactly. According to who Africa is poor. So I think that's is representation, is media, is a history of a people. In Liberia, they probably don't know. Some of them probably do, but others don't know who Africans are. I can go to another African country, they won't even like me. And you think to yourself, but I am in Africa. Why don't you like me? I'm black just like you. Again, that's a culture. That's their culture. So I think that's what I can identify as her. Is the culture that she comes from. She identifies as African, but because she's a different part of her culture, identifies as black or white, she becomes that identification. Exactly, So yeah.
And the lady Rachel Dolezal, who identified as transracial. The funniest thing about that story is that when people did actually start to give her, the black experience of being ignored and not being treated as valid and not being able to find a job, that's when she was like, oh, the world doesn't understand me. I was like, no, they do understand you. This is what it's like. This is what you signed up for.
Yeah. This was on Tumblr like 5 years ago. If only I can find the video, but the woman said, everyone wants to be, I don't want to use the word N-word. Everyone wants to be the N-word, but no one wants to be the N-word. So you want to identify, like black music. There are people who listen to black music, hip-hop, and will say, oh yeah, I like Jay-Z, I like all of that, I like this and that. Again, that's a personal choice of what music you want to listen to. And sometimes when you go to universities, I went to university, it's full of middle class. And they all want to be cool. And I'm like, but you don't come from that culture. You don't understand that culture. I'm not saying listen to music. Music is universal. I listen to indie music sometimes. So it's universal. But what I'm saying is that just because you listen to that music, you can't just identify yourself as that part of that world, because you don't know those people. They experience, not the struggle, just the experiences they've had. And some people forget that. It's like, oh yeah, I listen to black music. Some people, they see me as white. Say, why are you listening to black music? Because sometimes the experience that they speak about, not saying that you shouldn't, it's just a bit different. Like, even with hip-hop agenda, some people say it's Americanism. Some black British question, they said that's not black people. That's because of the struggles they've had after the post-slavery. They have now identified as that particular culture is where they come from. I think, to be honest with you, any human being, if you are, like, someone told me institution starts at home. If you were raised in a harsh household and your mum was, let's say your mum was beating you, or your dad, whatever, vice versa, you become that. Not always, but you see that and you think that's who you are. And I think, I'm not saying that black people behaving hip hop, that sometimes it's a not community, it's the exposure is where they are. Because if I was in America, I would be different to how I am if I was raised in Britain. If I was just lived in Congo for a long time, I wouldn't have the same mentality, because I just lived in that part of the world. And I think people forget that. Some people they've just lived in that part of the world. That's all they know. And we're not saying psychologically that's what you have. I remember her name now, Dr. Frances Wisling, and she says that is is a people identifying identification, because when you look at, we talk about Africa used to be has an institution, it was huge, it was big, but sometimes when you look at different African people, black people, different parts of the world, they behave in such a way. They say again, after slavery, we were all put in so many parts of the world. Now we've become so many parts of people.
Yes, exactly.
But then what I love about black people, we have that universal connection in all of us, and so yeah.
Okay, so just to wrap things up, can you give any advice to the future activists who may be watching this or listening in, who are saying that, you know, they're not educated enough, they don't have the skills enough, they don't have the resources? What advice would you give them to be active in activism?
I think activism starts with you. You looking around where you are in the community. I don't know what communities people are from. You can start just by collecting information, by knocking at people's door. For example, my what's her name, Malala, she started just by walking to school and making girls understand that why it's important to go to school. She started as that, you know. She didn't know everything. It's really about you. Even just if you want to do an activism on natural hair. Natural hair is such a big movement now, you know. It shouldn't be a movement, but it is a movement. Why? Because people are trying to get more black women to love their natural hair, and it just started by hair products that is cheap for us to use. So it started as that hair product that we can appreciate, that works, because we all have so many different hair textures as black people, and someone said, hey, this hair product is better for this and that, and they started activism on just hair. You know, activism doesn't have to always be about politics. It can just be about the communities that you come from. You see that there's no clean water, right? There's a girl, I forgot her name, she wrote a letter to Obama, and she was only 8 years old, about clean water, and Obama read that letter in public. So it's just about you. What are you passionate about for you, the people that are around you, really.
And activism doesn't have to be expensive or violent or time-consuming.
No.
It's whatever you want to improve in the environment.
Exactly. You don't have to protest, go to government. No, you don't have to do that.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming down and having a chat with us. I hope this has been a very interesting
Definitely.
It's definitely very interesting for me. Is there anything that you want to let the people know before we wrap up?
I'm going to Congo next year, and I'm doing a GoFundMe page to raise money to go to Congo. I'm trying to raise £1,500, and hopefully I can go to Congo next year in April. I'm fundraising for that, and the GoFundMe is just trip to Congo for 1 month. So if you go to GoFundMe, you type in trip to Congo for 1 month, you will see my faces there. I'm trying to fundraise, and I give myself a deadline till February next year.
And what do you plan to do in the Congo?
The same work I'm doing here, but slightly different, because I'll be visiting hospitals, and visiting nurses, talking to doctors, gathering. I think that's what it is I'm doing, gathering information, going to schools, seeing how the school system is like, first-hand information, and seeing how, when I do come back and forth in Congo, how can we have a strategic way of speaking to people about HIV in Congo. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, you can speak anything into existence, and I'll see you in Congo soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Right. Any questions from Facebook? Okay.
Oh yeah, we didn't. Yeah, you get so into the conversation.
I know. Well, the thing is, sometimes when you open it, there is a question.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask a question. My question is, I will say, like it said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity to inspiration, you know, to help young people with being positive on what you are doing. So my question is, as you said, you are planning to go to Congo next year. How are you going to motivate young people, especially in Congo, how to deal with HIV?
So how to motivate young people in Congo? I think the motivation comes from the people that I'll be working with, because sometimes when you're alone, people don't listen to you. They think they don't take you serious. But if I show them the work that I've already done here in the UK, I think they'll take me a bit more serious, that I am actually serious in what I'm talking about. And secondly, sometimes because this topic is so serious, HIV is a very serious topic, but you can open a discussion with people about their health, about how if I listen to them, that's what I'm there for. If I listen to their matter, and just questions like, I think we said it yesterday in our interview, why should it matter to you? Why should you both, as a young person in Congo who's already dealing with poverty, unemployment, why should you be concerned about HIV in Congo? Why should you be concerned about sexual health? And really the question is, when you look around you, teenage pregnancy is high, and some of the girls who are pregnant are probably most likely to give birth to children who are positive, and might even become orphans. The teenage girl can die delivering the baby, because again, delivery in Congo, maternity, and all of those kind of things, midwives, we don't even have many midwives in Congo, all of that plays such a huge role to HIV. So what I learned, I like this, because what I learned when I was in South Africa, wherever we came in, I'm not saying I'm going to do that, I'm not sure in Congo, but whenever we came into our classes, we sang. We always did, there's a term for it, just to listen people get loosen up, that you're gonna talk about something serious. So we always did sing a song. Like we had a song called Banana, and the whole school started calling us bananas, because we always sang it, because that's what we were taught. When we did our training before we started going to communities, we were taught other songs that we can use, energizers, that's what we use, like energizing songs that we can help them sing along with them at the beginning of before we start. And we do our session, and at the end, when we're closing, we did a song as well. I don't know, in Congo there's so many songs. I remember when we were in Congo that we used to dance to, sing to. I think that would really help, because it gets them excited. They can see this is a young person. She's not just serious, but she's young just like us. She probably goes out with her friends, dresses up. When they see that, really and truly, it helps them. So but when we have an energizer to loosen them up, to maybe have a song about, I don't know, Kofi or something, and a Congolese artist, to just listen to that, to sing to that. That's how, because you're taking away, because that's how the mind works. Even when you go to lectures, you sit down and listen for too long, you get bored of listening, because your mind is only captured, I think your mind can only concentrate for 10 minutes or something like that, or even less. So when you have those energizers, you sing a song, and we Congolese, we love singing, we love music. When you have something at the beginning of a session, and then you get to them about HIV and AIDS, and then you sing again at the end, I know that's going to work, because I've seen someone who's an activist in Congo looking at victims, men who've been in war, who were child soldiers, because they've had psychological effects of that, and he started a dancing workshop, just get them to dance, and music, because music is also part of a therapy. So when you start that, I think hopefully it would work, because I speak Lingala as well, and I think they would really appreciate that someone is coming in their country and she's left for so long, but she still can speak her language, and I think that would help a lot. And I know so much Congolese music, so I think that will gather them together as well. So hopefully that technique that I learned from South Africa would work the same in Congo as well. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. I think we got it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Was that a good interview?
Yes, it went to different other things.
Yeah, I like that stuff.
Yeah.